Okay, so get this right. Like $34.7 billion dollars. That's how big, well, how big they're saying the global market for leggings is going to be in 2025.
Yeah, leggings.
I don't know, it's kind of wild when you really stop and think about it. Like $34 billion dollars for leggings?
It is pretty amazing when you consider, how something so seemingly basic, right? Like leggings, and, they've become this like just huge global industry.
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating to think about, all the things that had to come together for that to happen.
Absolutely. And that number, the 34 billion that comes from this like seriously in-depth market report. I mean, we've been going through it and let me tell you, there's a lot to unpack here.
Absolutely.
And it's not, it doesn't seem like just a fad that's going to fade away. This report's saying there's going to be serious continued growth. So, like if you're listening to this, and you really want to understand this market, you want to get a handle on it, but you don't have time to like go through all this data, well, think of this deep dive as your shortcut. You know, we've done the heavy lifting for you.
That's exactly it. I mean, look, our goal here is to pull out the absolute key insights from all this data, all this information in the report.
Right.
We want to give you, the listener, a clear picture of like what's happening right now in the world of leggings and where this whole market is headed. We're going to be highlighting all the major trends, and the regional differences, all the interesting stuff that we found in this report.
Exactly. And this report, I mean, it really does look at everything. It's like they didn't miss a single detail. You got your overall market size, how fast it's growing, all the different types of leggings that people like, the materials, all the different materials they're made from,
Right.
all the ways that they're sold, like online, in stores, all that. And of course, who's buying them?
Yeah, who are those core customers?
So you ready to dive into the really big picture here? The global market.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So, okay, the report, it basically confirms that big number we talked about, that huge, $34 billion, what was it, $34,761.6 million valuation globally.
Wow.
For the leggings market in 2025. But okay, so that's a snapshot, right? It's like a still image. And if we start looking forward a little bit, that's when things get really interesting. They're projecting that this is going to grow to almost $56 billion by 2033, like 55,819.5.
Well, okay, so hold on. So that's like, what, an almost 60% increase?
Yeah, and they're predicting a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, or 7%. So, that basically means every year, on average, for that whole period, the market's going to be growing by 7%. That's really significant, and it shows there's some real momentum behind this market.
7% for lightswear. I mean, that's amazing. Okay, so what's driving all this growth? Like, why are leggings suddenly so, I don't know, so popular?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? Well, according to the report, the main thing is this: the demand for clothing that's both comfy and stylish. Like, people want to be comfortable, but they also want to look good. And leggings kind of, they check both those boxes.
They do. It's like they found that sweet spot, right?
Yeah. And, it really makes you think about how our lifestyles have changed. It's like we're not so strict about what we wear for different things anymore. Like, you used to have your work clothes and your workout clothes and your going out clothes, but now it's all kind of blending together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And leggings are a great example of that. Like, you can wear them to the gym, you can wear them to run errands, you can even dress them up for a night out. They're just super versatile.
Okay, so we've got these massive global numbers. Everything's trending upwards. People are loving leggings. So now let's get a little more specific. Let's break it down by region. Like what's going on in different parts of the world.
Okay, yeah. So the report breaks it down really nicely. It gives us a clear picture of what's happening regionally in 2025. And it's pretty interesting. So North America, right now, they're holding the biggest piece of the pie, over 40% of the global market share, which is huge, right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is, and that translates to, $13,904.64 million US dollars.
13 billion just in North America? Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot, but their projected growth rate, it's a bit slower compared to some other regions. They're looking at about a 5.2% CAGR.
Okay. So still strong growth, but not as explosive as some other areas. Now, when we talk about North America, I mean, it's pretty safe to say the U.S. is the big player there, right?
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. market by itself is estimated to reach almost $11 billion in 2025, like 10,970.76 million, and they're looking at a 5% CAGR.
5% growth on already 11 billion. That's amazing.
And the report, it kind of suggests that this is because of a bunch of different factors. People's lifestyles are changing. People want to be more comfortable. They're probably doing more casual activities. Plus, you've got more people moving to cities and people just have more disposable income. So, it all adds up.
Yeah. You see leggings everywhere these days. Like, at the gym, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But then, you see people wearing them to the grocery store, to the park, just out and about. They've really become like a wardrobe staple for so many people.
Yeah. And, that's not just limited to the U.S. either. Like their neighbors, Canada and Mexico, they're also seeing solid growth.
Yeah, what's happening in those markets?
Canada's market in 2025, it's projected to be 1,068.56 million, and they're looking at a CAGR of 6%.
Okay, so a little bit higher growth rate than the U.S.
Yeah, just slightly. In Mexico, they're looking at 1,265.32 million with a CAGR of 5.7%. So yeah, the U.S. is definitely the leader in North America, but there's solid growth happening across the whole region.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we've covered North America. Let's hop over the Atlantic now and see what's going on in Europe. What's the legging situation like over there?
Okay, so Europe, it's a big market, but not quite as big as North America. They account for over 30% of the global market, and they're projected to reach $10,428.48 million in 2025.
Okay.
Their growth rate is pretty steady. They're looking at a 5.5% CAGR.
So a significant market. But are there any countries in Europe that are really driving that growth? Like any standouts?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The UK and Germany, they're like the big players in the European legging market. The UK's market is projected to be around 1,751.98 million, and their CAGR is a strong 6.3%.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It is, and Germany's even bigger, looking at 2,064.84 million with a CAGR of 5.7%. So they're both experiencing really solid growth.
Okay, so the UK is growing a bit faster, but Germany's got a bigger overall market size. So what's driving all this legging love in Europe? Is it the same kind of stuff we're seeing in North America? Like comfort and, the changing lifestyles?
Well, yeah, that's definitely part of it. But the report points to a couple of other interesting factors in Europe. Like, there's this whole thing about shifting societal norms. People they're less concerned about like really strict dress codes. And then there's this whole athleisure trend, which is basically, wearing athletic clothing like leggings for everyday stuff, not just for working out.
Yeah, athleisure's huge. I mean, you see it everywhere.
Exactly. And the report suggests that those two things, the changing societal norms and the popularity of athleisure, are really big reasons why the legging market's growing so fast in Europe.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've done North America, we've done Europe. Now let's head over to a region that's often associated with, like, super fast growth, Asia Pacific. What's the story with leggings in that part of the world?
Yeah, so Asia Pacific, you're right, they are known for their fast growth. And that's definitely true for the leggings market, too. They're holding about 23% of the global market share right now, which comes to $7,995.17 million in 2025. But here's where it gets really interesting. Their projected CAGR is 9%.
9%. That's huge. That's the highest we've seen so far, right?
Yeah, it's definitely the highest across all the regions. It's super dynamic, and there are two major countries driving this growth, China and India. China's a huge market. I mean, they're looking at $3,597.83 million with a CAGR of 8.5%. But India's growing even faster. They're projected to reach $959.42 million with an amazing CAGR of 10.8%.
Wow. So India's the real speed demon in the Asia Pacific region.
They are, and the report suggests that this is because of a couple of key factors. One is increasing health consciousness. People are more aware of the importance of exercise and fitness, so they're looking for comfortable and practical clothing options. And then there's rapid urbanization. You've got tons of people moving to cities, which is also driving the demand for leggings.
Makes total sense. Okay, so we've got North America leading the pack in terms of market size, but Asia Pacific is the one to watch for growth. Now, what about Latin America? What's the leggings scene like there?
Okay, so Latin America, it's a smaller market compared to the other regions we've talked about, but it's still growing at a good pace. They hold a little over 5% of the global market with a projected size of $1,738.8 million in 2025.
Okay.
And their projected CAGR is 6.4%.
It's not too shabby.
No, not at all. And within Latin America, Brazil is the big player. They're estimated to reach $743.9 million in 2025 with a CAGR of 7%.
Okay, so solid, steady growth.
Ex
Okay, last but not least, we've got the Middle East and Africa. What's the legging landscape like in that region?
Okay, so the Middle East and Africa, it's the smallest market of all the regions. They're looking at about 2% of the global market share with a projected size of $695.23 million in 2025,
Okay,
and their projected CAGR is 6.7%.
solid.
Yeah. And the report specifically mentions growth in the GCC countries. They've got a combined market of $297.56 million and a CAGR of 7.5%.
So even in a smaller market, there are pockets of strong growth.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got a pretty clear picture now of, like, the global hierarchy of the leggings market. North America is the current leader, but Asia Pacific's on the rise. Now, I'm curious about the different types of leggings that people are buying. Like, is there a particular length that's super popular or a certain style? Does the report break that down at
It
all?
does. It does. So the report says that right now, the most popular type of leggings are mid-calf length.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I think is pretty interesting. It's all about comfort and versatility. They're good for working out, but you can also wear them casually. They're like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and that seems to be a recurring theme, right? Like, people want clothing that can do it all.
Absolutely.
Okay, so mid-calf is king right now. But what about the fastest growing type? Like, what's the next big thing in leggings?
Okay, so get this. It's colored leggings, like leggings that aren't just, basic black.
Oh, interesting. So like bright colors, patterns, all that.
Yeah, all of that. And the report says this is happening because people want to be more expressive with their clothing. They want something unique. And this is being, heavily influenced by social media. Like, platforms like Instagram and TikTok, they're all about visuals. People want to stand out, they want to get noticed, and wearing bright, colorful leggings is a great way to do that.
Yeah, in the age of Instagram and all that, it's all about the visuals. You've got to make a statement.
Exactly. And, this whole thing with colored leggings, it's kind of part of a bigger trend. Like, activewear isn't just for working out anymore. It's like it's become a fashion statement in itself.
Totally. Okay, so colored leggings are on the rise. Now, what about materials? Like, what are these leggings actually made from?
Yeah. So when it comes to materials, nylon's the current champ. It's got the biggest market share. And the reason is pretty straightforward. It's elastic, it's durable, and it wicks away moisture. Like, those are all really important things for athleisure wear.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're working out, you don't want your leggings to get all sweaty and sticky.
Exactly. And that's why nylon is so popular. It's just, it's really practical.
Yeah, okay, so nylon's the top dog right now. But are there any up-and-coming materials, anything that's gaining popularity really fast?
Yes, lycra.
Oh, okay.
It's growing super fast, and the reason I think is pretty obvious. It's incredibly stretchy. So it's perfect for compression wear. Like, those leggings that are really tight and like kind of hug the body.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of people who are into fitness, they love that compression feel. It makes them feel, supported, and it can even help with like muscle recovery. So as more and more people get into fitness, the demand for lycra leggings is just going up and up.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about types, we've talked about materials. Now let's talk about price. Like, when people are buying leggings, are they going for the budget-friendly options? Or are they willing to shell out some serious cash for like a premium pair of leggings? What's the report say about that?
Okay, so this might surprise you. The low price segment is actually the biggest part of the market right
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One is just basic affordability, especially in emerging economies. People are looking for affordable sportswear. And then you've got, the online retailers and the discount stores. They're all competing on the price. So it's easier to find cheaper leggings these days.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, not everyone can afford to drop $100 on a pair of leggings. But is there also a market for those more expensive leggings? Like, are people willing to pay more for, I don't know, better quality, maybe a certain brand name?
Oh, yeah, totally. The medium price segment is actually showing really strong growth.
Okay.
So, that suggests that there are a lot of people out there who are looking for a balance. They want something that's, good quality. They might be into certain brands,
Right.
but they're not necessarily looking for like the absolute top of the line, super expensive stuff.
Yeah. So it's like they're looking for value. They want something good, but they don't want to break the bank.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the price points. Now, where are people actually buying these leggings? Like, are they going to, brick and mortar stores, or are they buying everything online? What's the trend there?
Right now, offline channels are still the biggest part of the market. So, your traditional brick and mortar stores. And the report says this is because a lot of people still want that in-store experience. They want to be able to like touch the fabric, try the leggings on, make sure they fit right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I know I'm always a little hesitant to buy clothes online because I'm never sure how they're going to fit.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel the same way.
Okay, so offline is still king, but I'm guessing online sales are probably like, skyrocketing.
Oh, absolutely. Online channels are the fastest growing part of the market.
Okay.
And that's because of, a bunch of different factors. Like e-commerce is just super convenient. People can shop from anywhere, anytime.
Right,
And then you've got all these direct-to-consumer brands popping up.
right.
They're selling their leggings directly to customers online, cutting out the middleman. And then, social media marketing is huge.
Huge.
And there's all this new technology like virtual try-on tools, where you can like see how the leggings would look on you without actually having to try them on.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So all of that is really driving the growth of online sales.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so last question about consumers. Who's actually buying all these leggings? Like, is it mostly women? Or are men and kids also a big part of the market?
Okay, so no surprise here. The biggest segment is women.
Yeah,
And the report says this is because they're the ones who are, really into athleisure. They're exercising more. They're looking for comfortable clothing options. Leggings have basically become a staple in a lot of women's wardrobes.
yeah, totally. What about men?
Men are a smaller segment, but it is growing, slowly but surely.
Okay.
And then you've got kids. And this is actually pretty interesting. The kids segment is the fastest growing segment of the market.
Oh, wow, really?
And the report says this is happening because, activewear for kids is just becoming super popular.
Yeah, makes sense. Kids are always running around, playing sports, all that. They need comfy clothes.
Exactly. And then there's this whole trend toward like, making kids' clothes more comfortable in general, like less fussy, more practical.
Yeah, a less like miniature adult clothes and more like, clothes that kids can actually move around in.
Right. And leggings are perfect for that.
Totally. Okay, so we've covered like, who's buying leggings, where they're buying them, all that good stuff. Now I want to talk about the like, the bigger picture. Like, what are the underlying forces that are shaping this whole market? What's driving this crazy growth? And are there any potential roadblocks that we should be aware of?
Yeah, for sure. The report goes into that in detail.
Okay, good.
So first of all, the drivers, like what's pushing all this growth. And the big one is, what we've been talking about this whole time, athleisure.
Right.
It's huge, and it's not going away anytime soon. And then there's this increasing focus on sustainability. Like, people want to buy clothes that are made ethically, from sustainable materials. So brands are having to, like, really step up their game in that area.
Yeah, sustainability is becoming more and more important to consumers these days. It's not just about looking good, it's also about, doing good.
Exactly. And then the third driver is innovation.
Right?
Brands are constantly coming up with new materials, new designs, new features, and that's what keeps people interested. It's like, there's always something new to try.
Yeah, you got to stay ahead of the game. Okay, so we've got the drivers. What about the restraints? Like, what are some of the things that could potentially, like, slow down the growth of this market?
Okay, so two main things to watch out for. One is market saturation.
Okay.
Like, in some regions, the market might be getting close to like its peak. Everyone who wants leggings might already have them.
Right.
So that could, potentially slow down growth.
Yeah, if everyone's already got like, 10 pairs of leggings, they're probably not going to buy 10 more.
Exactly. And then the other thing is competition. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a ton of brands out there selling leggings.
Yeah.
So the competition is fierce, and that can, make it hard for brands to stand out. It can also, drive down prices, which can hurt profits.
Yeah, competition can be a double-edged sword. Okay, so we've got the drivers, we've got the restraints. Now, what about trends? Like, what are some of the cool new things that are happening in the leggings market that we should be aware of?
Oh, yeah, there are definitely some cool trends happening. The report talks about two in particular. One is customization and personalization.
Okay, so what does that mean? Like you can design your own leggings?
Yeah, kind of. Like, you can choose the color, the fabric, the length, the fit. You can even add, like, your own designs or logos.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And a lot of brands are offering this now. They're realizing that people want something unique, something that reflects their own personal style.
Right. And, in the age of social media, everyone wants to stand out. Okay, so customization is one trend. What's the other one?
Okay, so this is where it gets really futuristic. Smart leggings.
Smart leggings. Okay, I got to hear more about this.
So basically, they're leggings that have, like, technology built into them.
Okay.
So they can track your fitness, they can monitor your heart rate, they can even, like, give you feedback on your form.
Wow. So it's like having a personal trainer built into your legging.
Exactly.
That's wild. Okay, so those are the trends. Last question. Who are the big players in this market? Like, who are the major brands that are dominating the legging scene?
Okay, there are a few big names that you've probably heard of, like Lululemon,
Oh, yeah.
Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. Those are all, like, major global brands, and they all have a big presence in the leggings market.
Right.
But it's not just the big guys. There are also a lot of, like, smaller, newer brands that are popping up. And they're often doing some really cool stuff. Like, they're focusing on sustainability. They're offering more customization options. They're really, like, pushing the boundary of what leggings can be.
Okay, so it's a mix of like, the established giants and these up-and-coming innovators.
Exactly.
So how are all these companies, big and small, competing in this like, super competitive market? What are they doing to try to get ahead?
Okay, so the report highlights a few key strategies that brands are using. One is brand recognition.
Right.
Like, if you've got a strong brand, people are more likely to trust you. They're more likely to buy your products.
Yeah, brand loyalty is huge.
Absolutely. And then there's fabric technology. Like, a lot of brands are investing in, like, you know, really high-tech fabrics that are moisture-wicking, breathable, all that good stuff.
Right.
And then there's distribution.
Okay.
Like, making sure that your leggings are available in all the right places, whether it's online or in stores.
Right. You got to be where the customers are.
Exactly. And then, there's innovation, like, coming up with new designs, new features, just like constantly trying to improve your product.
Right. Got to keep things fresh.
Exactly. And then finally, there's marketing.
Right.
Like, using social media, influencer marketing, all that stuff to reach your target audience.
So basically, it's all about like, having a great product, making sure people know about it, and making it easy for them to buy it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Like, we've talked about the global market size, the regional differences, the different types of leggings, the materials, the price points, the sales channels, the consumers, the drivers, the restraints, the trends, the competition. Like, phew, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the, like, the big takeaway here? And what's the one thing that you want people to remember about the leggings market?
Okay, so the big takeaway is this. The global leggings market is not just big, it's like massive, and it's only getting bigger.
Okay.
Like, we're talking almost $35 billion in 2025.
Right.
And it's growing at a really healthy clip. And this is all being driven by, this whole idea of comfort and style coming together. Like, people want clothes that look good and feel good.
Yeah.
And leggings are like, the perfect example of that.
Right.
And then, we've got all these regional differences. Like, some regions are growing faster than others.
Right.
And then there are all these different consumer preferences. Like, people want different types of leggings, different materials, different price points. So it's a really dynamic market. There's a lot going on.
It is. It's definitely not just like, one size fits all. Okay, so we've given our listeners a lot to think about today, but I want to leave you with one final thought. Okay. So we talked about how online retail is growing like crazy and how people are like, really into customization these days. So what if, like, what if in the future you could get leggings that were completely made to order? Like, you could go online, design your own leggings, choose the exact fabric, the color, the fit, everything. And then they would be made just for you. Like, how cool would that be?
That's definitely an interesting idea. It would be like the ultimate in personalization.
Right. And it's not like, totally out of the realm of possibility. Like, we've already got 3D printing. We've got all this amazing technology. So who knows? Maybe in the future, we'll all be rocking custom-made leggings.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about. And it kind of makes you think about, the whole future of retail. Like, what's it going to look like? How are we going to be buying our clothes in the future?
Yeah, it's definitely a question worth pondering.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's it for our deep dive into the leggings market. I hope you learned something new today. And as always, keep those insightful questions coming. Until next time.